live on all three platforms. Good stuff. Hello, guys. Hello on Periscope. Hello on YouTube. Hello on Facebook. Ugh, it always feels like it's been way too long. But hello. Here in my part of the world, it's Saturday morning. I don't know where you are. I don't know where you're catching this from. So good morning, good afternoon, all of the above. Today is one of my favorite videos that I like to do, which is the Dear Journal series that I participate in and, well, that I designed and offer. And so essentially this is my journal. If you haven't already caught one of these videos, I clearly am a big Walking Dead fan. So my beloved, my beloved. Oh, how I won't say anything if you don't watch the show or you're I don't want to ruin, I don't want to spoiler alert, but sadness. I love the journal and I adore him, but sadness. We have a couple of seconds before we officially get started, and today we are talking all about how to break the chains of control. We all are essentially living a life where we have things that control us, and I think it's always really important to take a moment to just sit with ourselves and just say, wait a minute. Is this what I want? Is this the type of life I want? What can I do? And so I find it very kind of therapeutic and very relaxing and reflective to just really take a time and to just journal. So I'm going to share my thoughts, what I wrote for this month. I do this every single month, so you can catch this every single month, and hopefully this will be not only helpful for you, but it'll help you have some clarity as to kind of what you're looking for when it comes to breaking your own chains of control in your life. And so with that, it is time. Let's get started. My name is Natasha Nurse. I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a content creator. I'm the founder of Dressing Room 8, a platform I designed essentially about 5 years ago, essentially teaching women focused on how to think with clarity, dress with confidence, live with purpose. It's amazing, guys. It's probably one of the best things I ever could have done, because not only is it give me the opportunity to help others through coaching, but creating content has really just helped me actualize and look at things in my own life and things that I'd like to change, and how I'm going about changing things for my own life and really helping people to do the same in their own. So like I mentioned earlier, every month I get on here on Facebook, here on YouTube, here on Periscope, and I do a Dear Journal session because I really want to encourage people to journal, to write your thoughts down, to have time for reflection. And this month we are talking about how to break the chains of control. So let's get to it then, right? Alrighty, so a couple of things. First, what are some of the things that, when I say chains of control, what are things that control us in our life? So I would say people, right? Other people definitely have a bit of a hold of us sometimes, whether it's a family member, someone that has helped you and you feel kind of beholden to them, even strangers, right? Just people and judgment, right? Because really chains of control, we're really thinking about kind of also emotional chains, right? And what people how people make us feel. And granted, no one can make you feel any certain kind of way other than you allowing that to happen. But nonetheless, they're doing something and then it's triggering something in you, and then there's the chain, right? So people, emotions, certain activities can make us feel a certain kind of way, make us feel like there's some type of hold on us. I wrote down also society. There's certain ideological norms, right, as to what women should do, what women should look like, how men should do, what men should look like and feel, right? So there's societal norms. There's also religious holds, and I know that might not be a popular thought, but as someone who grew up in a Christian household with an extremist Christian mother, I had certain ideology that was put into my head that it was that I had to acknowledge was a chain of control, and that I had to decide what do I want, what do I not want, what can I do to break those chains, right? And then politics, more now than ever, I think most people can agree to the idea that political parties, political standpoints definitely could be deemed as chains of control. Why? Because there's certain things that the Dems believe and the Dems behold other Dems to, Republicans, independents, right? And we are living in a really tribalistic world. And, because of like coronavirus and there's so many things, death and sickness and illness and medical stuff, hopefully I'm hoping that one of the kind of the better sides of this horrible virus and this pandemic that this globe is handling and dealing with is that we can move away from some of the political chains of control that have been very prominent in our society, very prominent in our lives for many, many years. And I'm really hoping that that won't be the case going forward, that we can look past that because we have bigger things like saving people's lives, like making sure that we have a system, a healthcare system, a governmental system, agencies that can withstand something like this. Because right now, more than ever, I think we're seeing, hey, if this were to happen again, we need to be able to handle this better than how it's handled now, right? So there's that. And then also organizations, right? There's certain companies or I guess types of employment, I would say, that people work for that they definitely feel beholden to, that there's certain things that they don't feel comfortable doing, that, say, for instance, if you work in a very conservative job, like maybe either an accountant or a lawyer, or even in academia, there's things that you feel like you're not allowed to do in your free time, in your life. And so again, chain of control. And we've got to find a way to break these chains. We've got to find a way to live the life that we want, regardless of the job that we have, regardless of who, the type of relationships we have in our personal life. We've got to find freedom. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I myself have felt in my life, not necessarily now, but just throughout experiences that I've gone through, just saying, wait a minute, this isn't what I want. Wait a minute, this isn't, I feel like I'm being trapped and suffocated. And I'm a Virgo. And so like, if any other Virgos are on the line, please shout yourself out. I love a good Virgo camaraderie. But as a Virgo, I just have always really struggled with like kind of dealing with like feeling constrained and feeling like I can't be myself. It makes me just kind of like want to crawl outside of my skin and just be like, no, I will not deal with this. I will not be shamed. I will not be stifled, right? None of that stuff. So with that, let's kind of go through some steps that I wrote down. So again, if you're just joining, this is the Dear Journal video, how to break the chains of control. Talked about some of the things that we find as forces of control in our life. Now let's go through, how do we address it? How do we get through this? So first and foremost, we have to acknowledge what the chains are. So to give you an example, I can only speak for my experience. I mentioned a couple of things. So for me, emotions. So a big chain of control that I have and that I've dealt with in my life is definitely like emotional eating. So what is that, if you're not already familiar? So you have different emotions that go through your body, right? And you're just like, okay, I feel happy, I feel sad, I feel depressed, I feel da 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 da. And so what was a bad habit that I learned from my mother essentially is, if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're depressed, if you're mad, that we turn to food as a form of comfort. But then what has that developed? If you've done that for a long time, like I have, then it becomes kind of a chain of control for you, because now it's hard to experience your life without using food as a comfort, using food as an escape, using food as a way to get better. And, obviously, if that is something you're dealing with and you are interested in getting better, you should totally speak with medical professionals, people who can help you deal with that. For me, I have just really focused on kind of acknowledging that this is a situation, right? So if I'm happy, no, I don't need to order a pizza, right? I could play a game. I could do something creative. I can break the control of, emotion and food, and not always having to have the two go in hand. And whatever emotion I'm experiencing, it doesn't have to lend to a certain eating outcome. And so am I successful every time? No, definitely not. I would totally tell you that this week was horrible for me. Awful town. Oh my. It was was downright crazy. But, I acknowledge it, right? It happened. It's okay. Today's a new day. Today's a new day to say, hey, regardless of how I'm feeling, I don't have to turn to food as that chain of control, one of the chains that I deal with in my life. So that's one example. I can do another one. We'll do religion because that will probably piss off people. Okay. So I grew up, right, like I said, in a very traditional Christian household, right? So there's God and there's devil and there's all this stuff, right? And so as I was learning about the practices of Christianity, I always questioned essentially why it seemed so damning in nature, in the sense that, like, why exactly would loving God mean that I would have to condemn other people who don't share that same God with me, or condemn people who have a different lifestyle. And it always was something that was troubling to me. And it was always something that I refuted. I was just like, listen, I love my deity. I love my practice, but I refuse to say to someone that you can't love who you want, and that you can't be with who you want, and that you can't live your authentic life and be in your authentic truth because my religion is saying that that's wrong. That was something that I contested. I can't speak to anyone else. I can't tell you what you need to do. You have to decide what's best for you. But for me, it was something that was deeply troubling, because I think the kindest thing that a human being can ever do in this life is to have compassion for others. I really do. I think that there's so much pain, and there's so much hurt, and there's so much loss going on, not even just like beyond Corona, but like beyond this, right? People were dying. Beyond this, people were sick. Beyond this, people are being tortured. Like, there's a lot of just real horrible stuff that happens on a daily. We just don't hear about it, right? Because until it hits our home, it's not real, like, news. And that's how our news companies, whatever, that's the role that they want to play in this world of communication. It is what it is, but that's what I've interpreted as. And I'm always happy to have conversations, but I have a very kind of sad outlook on media outlets, because that's what it seems like, right? If 1,000 people die in Rwanda and it has nothing to do with America, it seems like, we don't hear about that. And that's not okay. But now that, we have this pandemic going on, it's like everybody talking about it, right? And it's good to hear about the global news, because we are one globe. We're all on the same freaking planet, man. Like, so I feel like, yeah, I want to hear what's happening in Turkey. Yeah, I want to hear what's happening in Poland. Yeah, I want to hear what's happening in France. I want to hear what's happening in South Africa. And yeah, I want to hear what's happening in Louisiana. Like, I want to hear it all. I want it to be accessible to all, because we're all one race, the human race, and we all live on one planet. So yeah, it kind of matters. And it shouldn't take something like a pandemic to make this happen. But again, maybe that's a silver lining. We shall see, right? We'll see how this picks up going forward as we conquer and tackle this biological nightmare that we're dealing with right now, right? And so what I decided to break that chain of religious control was, I said, I'm not going to take other people's beliefs. I'm not going to take other people's stance on what our religion is. And I'm just going to decide what makes sense for me. So what makes sense for me is to make sure that I support other people, regardless of who they love, regardless of what they believe, regardless of the life that they're living, as long as it's not endangering and harming others, because that's the kindest, compassionate thing that I can do. And I believe that my ultimate purpose in life is not to condemn others. I really don't think that we're here to bring harm and to judge others and to make other people beholden to the chains that we put onto them. So that's what I decided. And so I've been very happy with that. I've decided that at a very young age, because it never made sense to me. If you believe in a God, right, then why would God condemn others? It's illogical. It's completely illogical. Love. For me, my deity is love. And so love is endless, love is limitless, and it doesn't condemn. The number one thing why I love love, and I love love stories, it's not condemning, right? Love has no limit, and it has no color, and it has no shade, and it has no size, none of that. It's it's here for all of us, and we can all tap into it. We can decide to be a part of it. We can decide to love it, be a part of that love, and not be a part of love, but the love always exists. So that was the religious chain of, like, condemning others because they don't believe what I believe. Nope. I cut that chain off very young, and at a very young age. And it's, to be honest, I feel like it has made me a better person. It has made me a compassionate person. And I appreciate it when people come to me and they tell me, their sexual orientation or what they're going through in their lives. It's nothing but love for you, because that's all that I would want from you, right? That simple kind of golden rule that we learn as children here, at least in the States, is that, do unto others as you want done to you. Cool. So I want you to look at me and not make a judgment call on being a woman, being Black, being plus size, any of that stuff, just to say, hey, what's your name? I want to get to know you. I want to appreciate you. I have love and support for you, sister. Right. And that's it. So I cannot expect to do something for others that I want done for me that I can't do for others. Right. It's a two-way street here, right? Communication, love, appreciation, compassion, always a two-way street. So that's just a couple of examples. So acknowledge what are the chains of control in your life. So I talked about food as one that was one for me in my life. Also religion is another. Also, another one that's super kind of really compelling. Gender roles, gender norms, like if you're a woman, it means right? No. What do you want your life to stand for? What do you need to do in your life to be happy, right? If you're a woman and you're like, I don't want to wear makeup, cool, don't wear makeup, right? As long as you have a real justification for yourself, not for anyone else. You don't have to justify your life to anybody else in this world, but for you. I don't want to do something because. Have clarity for yourself. It doesn't matter what other people think. Now, granted, right? If you're like, hey, I'm all natural and that's the approach I'm taking to my life, will that work in every scenario? Will that work in every segment of your life that you do? You'll have to see, right? Things are changing. So what used to be in the 1950s is not the same in the 1970s. It is not the same in 2020, right? Like things are changing. And so you have to play that out and you have to live that experience. And sometimes it requires that we are the front runners of that change and that race that we're living. And that's okay, right? Because if we don't have people who are willing to kind of put themselves on the line and say, no, I will not be, right, and fill in the blank, we wouldn't have change. We wouldn't be where we are today. So there's that. Next, identifying triggers, I think, is really important. So for me, especially like if we go back to like the food example, big triggers for me is stress. And then also, feeling frustration. And then also, I guess I would say like maybe just like emotional baggage, I think would be maybe the best term. So like, so if you followed along in my story, I would say I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, let's see. Okay. So growing up, did I always get along with both of my parents? No. Do I still have issues with some of one of my parents? Yes. Right. So mom issues, right? Is that something that can be an emotional trigger for me? Absolutely. Is Mother's Day an easy day for me? Absolutely not. Right. Like the idea of living your life and not necessarily having the type of relationship that you thought you would have. Is that easy? No, it's not easy. Is it something that can easily trigger me to say, you know what? It's time for a Krispy Kreme donut. It's time for some fried chicken, right? Absolutely. That's just kind of what my narrative has been, right? I can't lie. I have to acknowledge it. I have to be truthful to myself. That's the only way you can ever have healing. That's the only way you can ever have progress. So those are triggers. So what I have done is instead of like celebrating Mother's Day, for instance, like that's a trigger, I will celebrate Me Day, right? Like, and do something for me. What do I want to do? So no, not watching movies about mothers and daughters. Absolutely not. Don't feel like crying, because that's what it's going to do, right? What is a trigger? It's something that you do that you know is going to initiate some type of reaction. And then it's just a domino effect from there. So acknowledging what your triggers are and then deciding how you want to handle each trigger, each situation, each person, right? They each have different chains of holds of chains in our life. Next, I would say committing to your plan has really been an important step. And I would acknowledge that would be something you'd want to. What do I mean by that? So if you identify, okay, this is a chain of control. So maybe you too also have mother issues. So what would be the way to handle that? Limiting time and exposure and kind of situations with that person would be ideal. Maybe even confronting that person. What's another thing you can do? You can also make change. Maybe that person is open to going and having family counseling or something like that. Going through that, right? Like identifying what are the different outlets of change and positivity that you can explore in your life, and then committing to it. So what do I mean by that? If say you are going to go and do like therapy, like a family session with you and your mom, or you and your dad, or you and a relative who you have like real issues with, what if that person says, I'm not up for doing this? Do you say, oh, okay, we can just like reschedule, or, oh, maybe we don't have to do it? No, you commit to your goal, because if you decided that this was an outlet that you needed to discover and go through to feel better about this situation, then backing away is what? Is it going to make you feel better or make you feel worse? It's going to make you feel worse, right? So no, absolutely not. You say to the person, you committed to doing this. If you don't do this, then you're saying to me, I'm interpreting this as you are not willing to make this situation better. You are willing to take your personal feelings, and they are somehow more important and better and more significant than how I'm feeling. And that is absolutely not true. And you have to be willing to say that to someone. You have to be willing to stand up for yourself. So that's what I mean by committing. Just like really saying, whatever plan you've put in place, whatever plan you have in place, not walking away from it, because you deserve to have that healing, to have that freedom, to have that weight lifted out of you and over from you. All right. So that's that. And then also, I wrote down here, like, be willing to stand your ground. Sometimes even when you do confront people about like, hey, this isn't okay, or hey, I want to change this, what do? They contest you. Do you fold? No, you do not fold. You never fold. Keep moving, right? You stand your ground. You don't have to justify your reasoning. I do want to be clear about that, because I think too many people in this world think that you have to explain your life and your life choices. Hells no. Are you crazy? No. Absolutely not. The beauty of being an adult is that you don't have to justify things, right? Like now, if you have a partner and stuff like that, whatever the nature of your relationship is, you decide what type of explanation is necessary with your partner. Again, there's no one size fit all here for relationships and stuff like that, but general stance in life, you have you have an obligation to yourself, and you choose everything else in your life, and you choose to share in what you don't share. You're not obligated to share stuff. And so you have to stand your ground, and you have to be willing to commit to your goal and commit to healing and freedom, because that's what we're ultimately talking about, right? Breaking chains of control is for freedom. It's for feeling relief, relief. Right. And that's my next step, which is to enjoy this freedom. It is like thoroughly, truly enjoyable telling people how you make them feel, and saying, you know what, this is what we're going to do now, or this is what we're not going to talk. Right. Like, it seems super scary, but I'm telling you, as someone who's confrontational, I know for non-confrontational people, it can be very challenging. There's such freedom in just saying no. There's such freedom in just standing your ground and feeling not helpless to a situation, but like, this is what I want. This is what I'm doing, point blank, period. Right. And just like leaving it at that. It's such freedom. And so I encourage you to think about the ways that you can have more freedom in your life. And if you need help with that, listen, that's why people like me exist. I'm a coach, right? That's why I said I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a content creator. So always feel free, go to dressingyourmate.com, schedule a free session with me. I'm happy to walk through that action plan with you for free, like totally just kind of, I want freedom. Because if more people lived freely without chains of control, what would they do? They would stop condemning others. They would stop trying to put chains on other people's lives. They would stop crushing dreams and hopes of others. Why do people do that? Because they are living under weights of control in their own life. And it's sickening and it's disturbing. And it's the saddest part of this is it's self-inflicted, right? No one's doing this to you. Absent like literally living in slavery, which yes, that's still happening in this world. So that's like a whole other conversation. Cannot tackle that right now. I don't have words. But for people who are free people in the sense of legal freedom and are not enslaved to someone else, then any type of suffocation you're dealing with in your life, any type of chains of control you're dealing with, got to know this is self-promulgated. You can choose to kick it out of your life. You can choose to make a different choice and to say enough is enough. I will not be tolerating XYZ. That is totally up to you. But until you make that choice, what you're doing, you're choosing to live under the chains of control, and it's depressing, and it's cutting away the best parts of your life, because you don't know how long you have promised on this planet. So any minute lost to the weight of others, lost to the weight of religion, lost to the weight of societal pressure, lost to the weight of emotional distress from others, is time that you can never get back, ever. That's the thing about time that's real interesting. You can never get it back. You can always make more money. You can always make more friends. You can even have more family, right? Family is the people you choose to be in your family. It's not just a biological designation. But time, that sucker, once it's gone, it's gone. So we have to acknowledge it, and we have to keep that in mind. And my last tip is just to not question your gut. Too many people are constantly indecisive and constantly questioning whether what their true intuition is telling them is right or wrong. And I say to you the following: why do this to yourself? Why not just go with your gut? We all have intuition inside of us. Is it always going to be right? Maybe, maybe not. But at the end of the day, isn't it better to trust your gut and play that out and see how that goes in your life, and at least have that lesson learned, than to not trust your gut and then go with maybe someone else's advice or go with another decision and then constantly in your head be like, man, I wish I had done what I wanted to do? Isn't that nonsensical? It's completely nonsensical. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? It makes no sense at all. So don't mistrust your gut. Like, go with your gut, go with your gut, go with your gut. It's like real simple. You can get it tattooed to your arm. If you really can't remember, just go with your gut, guys. Now, just my own, a couple of just like words of wisdom as we're winding down. It's emotionally tiresome dealing with control of others, whether it's through emotional distress that they're putting onto you, whether it's through religious convention, whether it's through political affiliation, whatever the chain of control is, it's emotionally wearing you down, and it's literally cutting away years of your life, guys. Stress kills. It's just as dangerous as cancer. It's just as dangerous as diabetes. It's just as dangerous as heart disease, as liver disease, and coronavirus, right? Like any type of disease you can mention on this planet, stress is just as bad, if not worse, because it lives here and then it gets felt throughout our entire body. And when you wake up feeling like you don't want to wake up, when you wake up and you look around and you're like, I hate my life, I hate this, this is all self-promulgated. We can make decisions and choices to move and to live the life that we want to live. You do not have to continue to stay in a rut. You do not have to continue to be under the weight of chains of control. So again, if you're like, you know what, Tasha, you're right. I'm done with this. I'm not going to do this anymore. Screw this, right? Like if that's where you're at, then you and I have to have an amazing conversation. Dressingroom8.com. Go there, schedule a free session. Let's create an action plan. What exactly are you looking to break? How do you want to break the chains of control in your life? And what's the problem? Why are you not waking up excited, blessed, grateful, and ready to slay, ready to have an amazing day? If that's not you, then there's room for change. There's absolutely room for change, and it's time for us to do that. All right. So that's one tip. Another tip that I wrote down here is, and this is from the great Maya Angelou, right? When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Stop the nonsense. Stop the nonsense of these excuses that we give people for their bad behavior, for the things, oh, they didn't mean it. Oh, this is just how they behave. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Absolutely not. When people show you who they are, please believe them. Please believe them. It's all you have to just do is be quiet, pay attention, see what people are saying to you, see how they're acting towards you, and make a decision. Does that person deserve to be in your life or not? There are how many billion of people on this planet? Listen, as they say, there's plenty of fish in the sea. You don't need it. Cut it out. Cut out the nonsense. The same way that if, when you're eating a banana and you see like the brown or black part and you're like, ugh, I'm not eating that. Take that same approach to the nonsensical negative people and negative forces in your life. You will free yourself. Free yourself, free yourself, free yourself. It's the most amazing feeling. And then the next thing I had is essentially what I talked about before, which is never be afraid to stand up for yourself. If you, and so what I would like for you, if you remember anything from this conversation, is, you know how if a loved one of you, so say if you're a mom or a dad and your kid came to you and they're like, mommy or daddy, you know, this person's making fun of me. This person's making me feel bad, right? Child bullying is like crazy. I've never seen it as bad as it has been when kids are in school. I don't know how things are going with coronavirus now that all the kiddies are home. Maybe some kids are going back to school. I don't know yet. But ultimately, if you have been paying attention to the news prior to pandemic, right? We constantly hear stories about kids killing themselves. It's not even just like they're sad in their bedroom. They're like literally hanging themselves, which is like nuts and so depressing. What do? We would get all enraged and we get so upset. Oh my God, we got to deal with this. Right? Yes, absolutely. It's your baby. It's your child. You would do anything for them. So I ask you, would you do anything for yourself? Would you defend yourself the way that you would defend a loved one? If not, there's a problem. We need to address it. The same love and compassion and passion you have for your loved ones in the sense of your child or your partner, or if someone said something about your best friend and you're like, oh, hells no, like you about to pop up, right? And you like, not today. How about for you, boo? If someone is making you feel bad, are you about to get as enraged for yourself? Because if not, there's a problem and we need to address it. All right. So that's all that I say. Just never be afraid to stand up for yourself. The same way that you will defend to the bitter end someone you deeply love, do it for yourself, because that means you're not loving yourself enough. And that's a serious problem, guys. All right. So that's pretty much all that I had for my Dear Journal session today. We were talking essentially about how to break the chains of control in your life, whether it's emotional chains, whether it's people, organizations, society, religion, any of that jazz. If you enjoyed it, you know what I would love from you? I'd love a like. I'd like for you to give me hearts if you're watching this here on Periscope, if you're watching this on Facebook, on YouTube, give me comments, all that good jazz. And then, of course, if you want to see more of me, there's a couple of things you can do. First, I always appreciate your time and I never take it for granted. You gave me your 30 minutes, so you can't get this back. And I appreciate that you stuck with me and you gave it to me. Love and appreciation always for you. That's amazing. Next, please go to dressroommate.com. Please subscribe to the blog. That's how you're going to find out for new posts and new content. Definitely subscribe to the monthly newsletter. That needs to be going out like soon. So you don't want to miss out on that. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you subscribe to the blog and the newsletter. And then, of course, on the events page, that's when you can see all upcoming events. There might be an event tomorrow, so you don't want to miss it. Definitely do that. And all the upcoming events. And yes, most of my events are virtual, very much in line with coronavirus. So there's no excuse to miss it, guys. I know you're home. Because if you're not home, you're like in trouble, guys. We got to be part of the solution, not the problem. All right. Social distancing. I know it can be challenging, but not so much, because you can come on here and you can chat with me. And like, how amazing is that? That's super fun. So let's do this. All right. Thank you again for joining Dear Journal. If you need me, you'll find me at dressingroom8.com. So now's the fun kind of option the thing that I have to do, which is saying goodbye on like 3 platforms at once. I only have 2 hands. Oh my gosh. How do we do this? All right. So first on YouTube. It's been real, guys. See you soon. Next, Periscope. How are you? It's been fun, guys. Thanks. And now Facebook. I love you guys. Facebook, we go long and hard. I adore you. I'll see you soon, okay?